you know what they say about the messy middle. And how could we ignore that middle school can feel messy because our students are right in the middle, preparing to go to high school and even looking towards the future beyond that. They're no longer kindergarten through fifth graders. They need their own set of skills, learning, goals, accountability. And today I'm going to talk about what we as parents should be looking for in a middle school program beyond what we see in a traditional setting. And if we do not see what we want for our middle school students, let's design it differently. Welcome to the Redream Education Podcast. I'm Mackenzie Oliver, microschool founder, educator, coach, and believer in the power of starting small, dreaming boldly, and rebuilding the future of education one courageous step at a time. If you're here, it's because something in your life, your classroom, your family, your child, your community, or your calling is asking for a new dream, a wiser dream, a redream. This podcast is where we challenge the old models, rethink what learning can be, and build innovative pathways for children, families, and communities. Each week, you'll gain the systems, strategies, stories, and soul work you need to design personalized learning, understand how education is changing for the better, start or scale a microschool, lead with confidence, make a change for your family, and create an education model that actually works for today's world. Because you aren't just dreaming of something different, you are building it. This is a space where we re-envision what school can be, reimagine how children learn, and rebuild the systems that were never designed to meet the needs of our future and current generation. This is a podcast to redream education as we share insights, strategies, stories, and tools to teach our children better, transform learning at home, support innovative education models, and invest financially or personally in the future of students everywhere. Because you aren't just dreaming about a better education, you're part of the movement to create it. Welcome to the Redream Education Podcast. This is where the future begins. When we first started our microschool Lighthouse Learning, I was convinced we're going to go up to fifth grade and then middle school, they will be ready for it. And I will just continue our program to be kindergarten through fifth. Well, what ends up happening is you, of course, start to love these children and their parents love your program. And the students begin to create these incredible relationships with one another. And now their student is going into middle school as a parent, and you're thinking, oh boy, do we rip off the Band-Aid, send them to traditional school? I mean, how many teachers are saying, I am not prepared to teach middle school? Or maybe you're a middle school teacher and you're thinking, I was not prepared to teach kindergarten through fifth. Maybe you're a parent and you don't even know what is ahead for your middle school student. Today, I want to talk about the messy middle and what I truly believe that our middle schoolers need. And this isn't just from my perspective. We have an incredible team of teachers at Lighthouse Learning, and together we have a wonderfully designed program for our middle school students, and it's getting more and more robust year after year. I definitely want to address the fact that I am so grateful to have a middle school program. And I'm so grateful to see what middle school can look like because both of my girls have been in middle school. And I remember what it was like during the pandemic when I had a house full of younger students and my daughter was the only middle school student, except for another middle school student who was with her up until December. Both of these girls, my daughter included, were doing a little bit of online school, and I was assisting with the gaps in between. Now our school, Lighthouse Learning, is a fully fleshed out program for our middle school students. And I will say, I thought we would begin preparing for having a high school program at this age, but I knew that quality is better than quantity. So the students that we have right now in 6th grade, we will track with them to prepare for high school. So we still have a couple of years, and we're very intentional about this because we want the middle school program to be very strong. Now, for years, Lighthouse Learning, of course, has been a God vision that was given to myself and my husband, and we've just been obedient and following the course. Now, as our school has grown, we have more people involved in helping us to create a shared vision of what school can look like for our middle schoolers. And today I want to talk about what I believe middle school parents are looking for when it comes to the success of their child, not just academically, but socially, emotionally. I want to talk about why traditional middle school is difficult for many children. And I'm sure we could all make a list of it, right? How we can beat this feeling by imposing ownership and purpose and preparedness. They're not the extras, they are the point of middle school. We're going to talk about what parents really can look forward to at this age and why it's important that we're not putting the pressure on the kids at this very fragile stage to becoming, quote unquote, the typical middle schooler. How we together as a community can make it better for them. And lastly, I want to share how a model can look for students to really prepare them for high school and beyond. So let's first start off with the middle school program and how middle school programs for that age, typically 6th through 8th grade, can look like for a child and why it might feel so difficult. Well, middle school can be the make or break season for a child's confidence, their identity, and their academic trajectory. This is huge. This is really, really huge. Huge, huge, huge. And that is the confidence building and the identity. I was not prepared as a parent to see what my daughters were going to go through in traditional middle school. So for my oldest daughter, Jalen, she was with us, was with me, kindergarten through 5th grade whenever I taught it in elementary school. And then when she went to middle school, I had left teaching at that time from public school. And I just knew, okay, she's going into middle school. It's a brand new middle school. She's not going with friends that she knows. She's going to a brand new area where most of the kids that she went to elementary school, they were funneled in somewhere else. Now I'm bringing her to where we live, to this middle school, and she's happy, right? She's happy. She's very smart. She's an incredible student. She is precious and kind. But wow, come that first year, I was almost grateful, literally almost grateful that the pandemic came during her 6th grade year because it was so emotionally tough for her. And it was tough for me. And if you're not a regulated parent and you've got a dysregulated child, we got 2 dysregulated people in the house, and then everybody else becomes dysregulated, including your dog. So let's just keep it real, okay? I get it. Some kids can go into middle school, especially if they've been with their peers, kindergarten through 5th grade, and they can hammer it out. For me, that was me. Kindergarten through 5th grade at my elementary school, small school, went into middle school. Oh my goodness. That was the year where boyfriends and girlfriends were a real thing. It was the year where bullying really became a real thing. I remember getting my locker demolished by a set of girls who since then have definitely apologized in our adult years. I had a picture of myself in my locker and they drew all over it, wrote terribly mean things. And I really do consider myself a nice girl. I was not a girl who got into any type of arguments. I wanted to stay clear from it. I remember getting tripped in middle school. I got locked in the girls' bathroom before a basketball game that I was cheering at, and girls saying that they were going to beat me up. I don't know why. Like, why? Why would they even want to do that? I'm not for sure. I remember getting stomach aches before going to middle school each morning. I remember a lot of friendships that I had had in elementary school were starting to sizzle out. I myself was dealing with my own personal identity issues. Was I skinny? Was I too skinny? Was I overweight? I didn't know. I didn't even know at that time, like, what was I supposed to be? My nose was too big. I thought I was wearing the same jeans over and over day after day because I thought that those were the only jeans that would look good on me. And my dad was like, "Why are you wearing the same jeans every single day? They've not been washed all week long." And I'm like, "Dad, I don't have any other jeans." He's like, "You've got 5 pairs of jeans in the closet. What do you mean you don't have any jeans?" I just remember dousing myself with perfume before going to school every day. Okay, you've got your own middle school stories. We don't need to go. We could go on and on, right? Wow. Then I saw the pressures of the high schoolers and them thinking that they were bigger than us and better than us. And I had just completely lost touch with my little elementary self and all of the safety that I felt there and the teachers and relationships that we had. I'm now switching to all of these classes, different expectations from 7 different teachers who did not communicate on when due dates were aligning. So I'd have presentations and tests all due within the same day. I didn't know how to manage myself when it came to setting goals and my notebooks and how many folders am I supposed to have. I mean, come on, we can go on and on. I think it works until it doesn't work. And we're talking about middle school, gosh, 30 years ago? That was my experience in middle school 30 years ago, 32 years ago. We didn't have the cell phones. We didn't have social media. We didn't have the internet at that time that I knew of. I didn't even have a computer. I just loved going home and playing Mario Kart. Our kids, we are all right now. My dad said it best. He said, "You guys are the first generation." I'm 41. "You're the first generation to raise kids with phones. We don't know what we're doing." This is not a soapbox about cell phones right now, but I'm just saying it's an added pressure to what we're already facing. And so you destroy a kid's confidence. You take away their identity. It completely affects their academics. My daughter, who is very, very bright, very high IQ, started to not show the same behaviors academically that she did in elementary school when she went into middle school. And she didn't have relationships with majority of her teachers. She was a part of a really big school. She was inundated with seeing things she had never seen before. And, now we even have drugs in schools. We have vaping in schools. We've just got a lot of things going on in middle schools. For many families, this is the stage where kids who used to love learning start to disappear. And I'm raising my hand. I talked about this up on stage at the Vela conference this past summer. And it took all I had to hold back the tears when I shared just a little snippet. Academically, socially, emotionally, all 3 of these are at a very fragile stage in middle school. And by throwing them into middle school, we're not preparing them the way that our parents said, like, "Oh, just put them in there, sink or swim, they'll figure it out." I do not believe that right now. I believe that it comes with a cost. If we are not prepared and we don't have an environment that is truthfully. If you are a teacher, a homeschooling parent, or a brand new microschool founder who is trying to figure out what comes next, you need to hear this. Microschool Masterminds is the community and coaching program I wish I had when I first stepped out of the classroom and built our microschool. Yes, straight from the living room to now nearly over 100 students thriving in year 6. This is where teachers and founders finally get the roadmap, the support, and the systems to create a thriving microschool without burning out. Inside Microschool Masterminds, you will receive weekly live coaching with me and other powerful professionals who discuss strategy, solutions, and provide personal support. You also receive step-by-step modules to build your school legally financially and operationally. Marketing enrollment done for you with training that works even if you've never advertised before, and you can learn this on your own time through our microschool masterminds classroom modules. Worried about multi-age classrooms or curriculum? We've got you covered with our curriculum planning resources. You receive templates, checklists, scripts, and systems for marketing, financial systems, operations, community building, and growth. Everything is ready for you to plug in and go. Most importantly, you have access to a powerful community of other founders who understand your dreams and your fears. Whether you're starting really slow, or you're still teaching the classroom and you're dreaming of breaking free, or you're already running your microschool but feeling overwhelmed, trying to figure out also how to build a hybrid program. This is a place where you gain clarity, confidence, and of course, a plan. Because you don't have to do this alone. You deserve guidance, you deserve support, and your microschool deserves to grow with ease, not chaos. If you're ready to redream education and take the next step, join us inside Microschool Masterminds, where together we are building this education system better. Head over to redreameducation.com/masterminds to learn more. Again, that's redreameducation.com/masterminds. Set up to help these children with the social, emotional learning that needs to take place in middle school. We need to talk about why our adolescents are failing, and not necessarily academically, but emotionally, why they're becoming so much more detached, why they're becoming so much more dysregulated, fragile, and how can we really better design middle school to where it's built for ownership, where it's built for purpose, where it's built for belonging and preparedness. And let me just ask, is it a true desire for our children to want to go to a big school, to see what it looks and it feels like? For a lot of kids, yes. Yes. And for my daughter, my oldest one, when she went back into middle school, her 8th grade year after being with us, she was like, I don't want to go, but I feel like I need to go. And I understood that for her because she didn't have any children her age at our house when I had a bunch of younger kids. But we still paid the price of it. When my youngest daughter, she's been with us all the way through 7th grade, went into 8th grade, I've talked about this on the podcast for the past several months. It has been very, very eye-opening, very difficult, and I'm grateful that it's brought in a lot of really great conversations. I'm very grateful that she's very open and she shares a lot with me. But for some kids, that's not always the case. For my oldest daughter, she didn't share a lot. She just needed to come home and be still and be quiet so she could sort out all the things that happened during that day. Where my youngest one, she comes home and she just spills the beans about everything. And I'm like, wow, I need to sit by myself for an hour and sort all of this out. For my daughter, I gave her the opportunity. I did. For both of my girls, I let them have the opportunity because it's our school. And I mentioned before, I think my daughter Juliana would have stayed with us. She was so happy, but she was with her mom and dad every day. And so that in and of itself, like, I wanted her to be able to spread her wings and fly because that's what she wanted to do. And she has a couple times throughout each month been like, should I go back to Lighthouse Learning? She's actually had a trial day back at our school. And I think I mentioned this on the podcast. She said, Mommy, I realized I feel so free there. I feel so happy. That was such a great day. And then a couple hours later, she said, Mommy, you know what I realized? All the teachers at your school, they truly do care. What is the difference? Why does the typical middle school structure often clash with adolescent development? What do our students actually need in grades 6 through 8 to stay engaged and grow? What should parents look for and ask for in a middle school program? And will a middle school program truly prepare students for high school, not just keeping them busy? Well, not only in my experience as a mom, but as an educator, I thought I wanted to teach middle school. And I think if I were ever to go back into a traditional school setting, I would go back into middle school because it is that impactful. I understand, though, why some teachers, this is hard for them. Traditional middle school often creates a poor fit for what adolescents developmentally need. They need belonging, they need autonomy, they need supportive relationships, they need a meaningful challenge, they need a safe place. I've talked about this in not the last episode, but the episode before. Students need to feel safe, they need to feel seen, and they need to feel heard. And that's already a challenge for middle schoolers. Typically, we see in middle school more transitions, less connection, more compliance, less ownership, more systems, less mentorship. Middle school needs mentorship. Kids who seem fine on the outside, but are quietly checked out on the inside. Ownership, purpose, preparedness, as I mentioned earlier, they are not extras. In my opinion, they are the point of middle school. Students taking ownership, students having purpose, and students feeling prepared. Do you know, even as an adult, if you don't feel like you own a decision, if you don't feel like you have purpose in your life, if you don't feel prepared, do you know that that leads to so much anxiety, depression? And now think about our middle schoolers. And if you're thinking to yourself, but it worked for us, at what cost? And it worked for us because there was no other alternative. But now we have alternatives. We can be better. We can do better. We can choose better. Ownership? What if middle school looks like students practicing managing their time? We have two incredible middle school teachers. One teaches 6th grade and one teaches 7th and 8th. Both of them have middle school, high school, or college students and college student age students. So they get it. And what I really love about what they've brought to our middle school program is to help students set goals, track their progress, communicate their needs. And they're just really cool teachers. I'll go in there and they're like talking about life in class. They got their little cool middle school snacks and drinks. And they just feel safe and they feel seen and they feel heard. And they have purpose. I've seen these teachers really connect learning to real life with projects, looking for ways our students can be leaders, having reading buddies, giving them positions as teacher aides during some of the days on our enrichment program, hosting MVP ceremonies for the whole school, helping to lead entrepreneurship programs, to talk about careers. Engagement rises because students can see why it happens. Independence does not magically appear in 9th grade. It is a building block to that. Preparedness. Preparedness isn't just about content. It's about executive functioning skills, planning, organizing, prioritizing, self-regulating, and persevering through challenges. I would say, looking back, I think it would have been better for my daughters if I would have kept them through middle school, prepared them through how to manage their time better, how to track their progress, how to set goals, how to have purpose. And while my youngest daughters was with us 6th and 7th grade of middle school, I think one more year would have really been like the icing on the cake to where they could go into high school being prepared for going to school as a 15-year-old, 14-year-old, going to school with 18-year-olds. I remember my daughter, Jalen, when I picked her up a couple days after the first week of school, her 9th grade year, she's like, "Mom, do you know I go to school with kids who have tattoos?" And it was just cute. It was so funny that she is 14 years old. She's going into middle school with some 18-year-olds. And of course, they've all got piercings and they've got tattoos. And she's like, "Wow, this is so, I don't even know. What is the word? Astonishing, I guess." Listen, self-regulation, like let's focus on this. Let's focus on regulating our children. Let's focus on helping them to learn prioritizing, organizing, planning, I do not think it is worthwhile to say they'll figure it out. Yes, there is some great components to just figuring things out. My husband and I, we got to figure things out all the time, right? But isn't it better when you have someone there to help you? Given an example, we ran into this insurance problem with our house. I was very overwhelmed. I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know. I was like, we got to call here. We got to upload these forms. We got to upload these documents. Da, 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 da. And I'm like, I do not. This is like out of my scope of knowledge here. And it was out of my husband's scope of knowledge. And he's sitting with me and we're both a little frustrated. We got the insurance company on the phone. I'm going through all my binders. I save every piece of paper that I possibly can. And after a little bit, we figured it out. He's like, wow, look at us. We're so good. We figured it out. And I'm thinking, we, keyword, we figured it out. We were a team. We did it together and we were in the mess together. And for me as a parent, right now, kids, I don't know how to get connected. They got all this learning online. They got a portal here, a portal there, a portal here, username here. Go check your grades here. Go check this here. Go check into here. I don't even know how to help my daughter. I don't. I'm like, we got a syllabus here. When's this due? Check this. She comes home from school after being at school for almost 8 hours, comes home, has 3 hours of homework. I don't know how to help her. I'm like trying to figure it out. I'm an educator. You would think I would know. I'm pretty good with timelines. I'm pretty good with details. I'm struggling here. We need a class. If your kids go to traditional school and you're a middle school parent, you need a class. They need to start having this, like bring the parents in, have them log into everything, teach them where they're supposed to go, not a quick, hi, I'm your teacher, I'm your child's teacher, and this is our classroom, and here's where you find the syllabus, and then the bell rings and you go to the next class. That's what we did when we went to middle school orientation. I need a class. I need to sit down. I need to know how to help them. And I just wonder, do they need all of that? Do they? What if we slow down a little bit and we just really help them to get prepared on the basic things before we move into all these complex systems that they don't want to do? They just want to come home. They want to talk to their friends. They want to socialize. They want to go on walks. They want to go ride their scooters. They want to go to the mall. They just want to go hang out with their friends. And now they're going home and they're doing hours and hours of homework. Is this what we're preparing our kids to do? Is this what life should be like? You should go to work for 8 hours and then come home and do another 3 hours of work. I don't know about you, but that's not the life I want to live. I digress. Okay. Get back on track, Mackenzie. Listen, being prepared, as we know, aligns with motivation research. It shows students that they can thrive when environments support their autonomy, when they feel competent, when they have a sense of relatedness. These are three needs that are strongly linked to engagement and performance. I believe as a parent, what we are really looking for in middle school is a place where we know that there are non-negotiables. We need a community feel where kids are known. Typically, that happens in a smaller environment. Looking for advisories, mentorship, consistent adult relationships. A lot of times, what I've seen my kids struggle with the most is the inconsistency with all 7 teachers, and then you got subs in some of those classes, and then you got testing situations, and then they got to move to this other teacher who doesn't know them, get out your laptop, take this test. Middle grades reform research consistently, emphasizing that small, caring communities, they build a strong adult advocacy. When we have belonging and when we have connectedness, we are intentionally building a place where students feel like they are cared for and a part of the school. It's linked to better outcomes for adolescents, not just academically, but behaviorally and emotionally. I believe that we need to look for a real plan for skill building, not just working on the work, where students can explicitly learn study skills, planning, organization, goal setting, communication, how to self-advocate. These are the skills that keep students from getting lost. I told my daughter, Jolie, I said, okay, when you go to this class tomorrow, tell the teacher, because I don't know if I talked about this on a podcast before. I said, tell the teacher that you're going to need to put this blue overlay on the paper because your eyes are getting they're bouncing up and down, and it's a specific. It's not dyslexia, it's not dysgraphia, it's nothing of that nature. It's not a learning disability, but it is something with her eyes. It's very rare, and it's like astigmatism that causes the letters to look wavy. I said, put this blue overlay on your paper right now so that it doesn't cause the letters to do that. She said, Mom, do you really think my teachers care? Do you really think they're going to listen to me? I cannot do that. And so here we are trying to help her to self-advocate, but she feels as if the person that she's going to go to, her teachers, the ones who were trusting there, are not going to listen to her and they don't care. And of course, if a child has any type of discrepancy that could cause any problems in learning, you've got to go through an entire process for either a 504 or an IEP. When I'm thinking, okay, if she were at Lighthouse Learning, it'd be like, she needs an overlay on her paper. And she'd be like, I need this overlay on my paper. And she would do it and she would advocate for herself. And I'm just wondering, is that how we're raising our kids? So to when they go into the workplace, they have a boss, they need to self-advocate for themselves, but they've never really been taught that the person who is leading them will listen to them self-advocate. It's deeper, guys, than just in the moment, working through middle school, where we're teaching our kids little things that carry with them through the course of time. And I said, Jolie, you've got to advocate for yourself. This is your right to be able to put this over your paper so that the letters aren't dancing around. And she's like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that until you call the school and you do blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, I already have, and we just got to wait for all the little nooks and crannies. But I'm not going to sit here and watch you struggle because we don't have it on paper yet. That's the problem. We're going to have all this forms and documentation so that our kids can get help if they're struggling in an area. I just don't believe in it. I'm sorry, I don't believe in it. We need a model that balances structure, autonomy, and self-advocacy. A strong middle school model doesn't baby kids, and it doesn't throw them into independence without scaffolding. It's a bridge. As a parent, knowing whether or not a middle school prepares students for high school, I think you can make a checklist. You have your own sense of criteria, but there's academic readiness. How do you ensure that students can handle writing demands, which is an important skill? Multi-step math, complex reading, vocabulary, which is critical for SAT, ACT. How do you support struggling students without shaming them? And how do you support students who are advanced? Executive functioning readiness. How do students learn at your school to manage deadlines? How do they learn to manage long-term projects? How do they learn to handle multiple expectations? If I'm even nervous to ask that in an open house to all 7 teachers. They'll be like, ma'am, can you just log into this portal and read the syllabus and figure it out? I mean, I'm sure some teachers would help me out here, but I'm thinking, I'm struggling. How is it that these kiddos, like I honestly thinking they are just floating through. They are floating through. And then when it comes time for high school, it kind of clicks a little bit, right? What are the organization systems? That's what I want to know. I think for middle school, we need to talk about how do we keep these kids organized? Multiple classes, multiple notebooks, multiple folders. I think honestly, if I were running a huge middle school program, I would be like, all right, teachers, how are we helping our students be organized and in communication with each other to help offload some of the demands we're putting on them? I do believe organization is so key. That's something that we talk about all the time at our school. And, it's already messy in middle school. It's not necessarily going to be perfect, but I think that we can do a better job of helping them be organized and helping them take ownership of their work. And then, of course, there's a social emotional readiness. How do you handle conflict at school, peer dynamics, identity development? How do you create belonging and accountability? Who does my daughter go to if she's feeling overwhelmed or sad or she's having a situation with mean girls? There is a ninth grade on-track readiness that I think is important to identify because one of the strongest predictors of graduating high school is whether students are on track in ninth grade, meaning credits earned and limited failure in core classes. Middle school models, I believe, should intentionally prepare students to succeed at that ninth grade transition. Listen, community, let's work better at making this a magnificent middle school experience rather than messy. And you know what I think is so beautiful is that we actually have the opportunity to do so. It is time to redream education and to actually take that next step. Join us in Microschool Masterminds every single week for live group coaching, self-paced modules, and of course, a powerful community. Head on over to redreameducation.com/masterminds and join us in our free Facebook group at Redream Education Microschool Community. To learn more, that's redreameducation.com/masterminds.